U.S. allies operating in and around Iran are increasingly expressing doubts about whether the American military can genuinely guarantee their safety, as regional tensions and security threats continue to rise sharply. In response to the deteriorating situation, New Zealand has announced the temporary closure of its embassy in Tehran, relocating all consular operations to neighboring Turkey as a precautionary security measure. Wellington confirmed that all remaining diplomatic staff have now safely departed Iran, traveling out of the country on commercial flights over the past 24 hours amid growing unease in the capital. The move came shortly after New Zealand's Foreign Minister, Winston Peters, issued strong criticism of Iran's escalating violence, warning that the regional instability now poses heightened risks for diplomatic missions and foreign citizens alike. As evacuations and uncertainty increases, Winston Peters said, and I quote, "We condemn the brutal crackdown being carried out by Iran's security forces, including the killing of protesters." Unquote. New Zealand has issued a strong advisory urging all of its citizens to avoid any travel to Iran and for those currently in the country to leave immediately, citing serious concerns over the deteriorating security environment. Wellington further cautioned that its ability to provide assistance or emergency support to New Zealanders remaining in Iran is now extremely limited, given the closure of its embassy and restricted diplomatic access. It's not just New Zealand taking precautionary measures. The United Kingdom has also reportedly moved to temporarily close its embassy in Tehran amid rising regional instability. Citing the rapidly worsening security conditions across Iran, British authorities have confirmed that UK diplomatic staff were evacuated earlier this week as part of a coordinated safety operation. The UK Foreign Office announced that its embassy in Tehran will continue functioning remotely for the foreseeable future, maintaining essential communication lines and consular services from outside the country. The wave of diplomatic withdrawals comes at a time when Washington is warning that Iran's leadership may be edging dangerously close to political and economic collapse, as pressure from both internal protests and international sanctions continues to mount. Speaking earlier this week, the U.S. Treasury Secretary revealed that Washington is closely monitoring a sharp increase in capital flight, with significant sums of money reportedly being moved abroad by Iran's ruling elite. According to Treasury Chief Bessent, tens of millions of dollars are being siphoned out of Iran by senior political and military figures, a move that signals deep anxiety over the nation's stability and the future of its leadership. He went on to describe top Iranian officials as effectively abandoning ship, fleeing both financially and politically amid a wave of domestic unrest and growing fears of potential U.S. military intervention.
My message today is to the Iranian leadership on behalf of the people of Iran who cannot speak for themselves. Last March, we predicted that President Trump's maximum pressure campaign against the Iranian regime would accelerate an economic collapse. Since then, our sanctions efforts have been effective in slashing oil exports and cutting revenue. The currency and living conditions are in freefall. The early warning signs are already flashing in the Iranian economy. The regime continues to egregiously mismanage its economic resources with additional subsidies and price controls. The central bank is broke and printing money. Hyperinflation is next. Rather than building a prosperous Iran, the regime has chosen to squander what remains of the nation's oil revenues on nuclear weapons development, missiles, and terrorist proxies around the world. Civilians are rightly protesting mismanagement and economic collapse. President Trump stands with the people of Iran and has ordered Treasury to sanction members of the regime. Iran's leaders have brutally responded to peaceful demonstrations with violence, from mass shootings in the street to attacks on wounded victims in hospitals. Today's sanctions target 18 individuals and entities that the regime uses to evade sanctions on Iranian oil and divert proceeds from its energy sales away from the rightful owners, the Iranian people. Tehran's natural resources belong to its people and not its brutal dictators. Treasury will continue to target Iranian networks and corrupt elites that enrich themselves at the expense of average Iranians. This includes the regime's attempts to exploit digital assets to evade sanctions and finance cybercriminal operations. Additionally, President Trump has announced a 25% tariff on countries that continue to do business with Iran. Our message to the Iranian people is clear. Your demands are legitimate. You are protesting for a noble cause, and the United States supports you and your efforts to peacefully oppose the regime's mismanagement and brutality. Our message to the Iranian leaders is also clear. U.S. Treasury knows that like rats in a sinking ship, you are frantically wiring funds stolen from Iranian families to banks and financial institutions around the world. Rest assured, we will track them and you, but there's still time if you choose to join us. As President Trump has said, stop the violence and stand with the people of Iran.
What began in December 2025 as demonstrations over Iran's deepening economic crisis has now escalated into a full-fledged movement calling for regime change, reflecting growing public anger and frustration with years of corruption, inflation, and political repression. Security forces have met the protests with deadly violence, and according to multiple reports, as many as 12,000 protesters may have been killed in the crackdown, a grim toll that underscores the intensity of the government's response and the scale of the unrest sweeping the nation.